It's 2 a.m., and you're driving down a quiet stretch of road in rural Australia. The moon barely lights your way as the trees on either side seem to close in, casting eerie shadows on the ground. Your headlights flicker, and you swear you hear something, a sound, like a whisper or a faint cry, carried on the wind. You shake it off as nerves, but you can't escape the feeling that you're not alone. Suddenly, a figure appears in the distance, barely visible in the dark, and it's moving closer. It's a person. Or at least, it looks like one. But as you get closer, it vanishes. This is just one of many eerie experiences tied to a chilling Australian urban legend, the kind of story you'd think was just another terrifying tale told around a campfire or whispered about in hushed tones among locals. But here's the twist, this legend turned out to be true. And it's scarier than you could ever imagine. The legend of the black-eyed children. For decades, there have been whispers, rumors, and urban legends about strange occurrences in the remote and rural parts of Australia. Some stories were passed down, and others just seemed to pop up, terrifying people who swore they saw something they couldn't explain. One of the most chilling and widely known urban legends is that of the black-eyed children, strange, ghostly children who seem to appear out of nowhere, usually on quiet country roads, near forests, or in the shadows of buildings, asking for help or begging to be let into your car. What are the black-eyed children? These kids don't just look unusual, they are downright unsettling. The first sign something's wrong is their solid black eyes, no whites, just pure, deep blackness. The typical encounter is that they appear in the middle of nowhere, seemingly lost, or in desperate need of help, often asking for a ride or a place to stay. But the legends don't end there. Witnesses report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when in the presence of these children, as if something is deeply wrong, even though they appear perfectly normal in every other way. They stand silently, their expressions empty, almost robotic, as they plead with people to let them in. They may not even speak, but their silence feels unnervingly intentional. But, what happens if you let them in? Well, that's where the stories start to get chilling. The first known encounter, is this the truth behind the legend? It all started when a man named John drove home one night through the deserted roads of rural Victoria. The moon was barely visible, and the only sound was the hum of his tires against the asphalt. As he passed a small, desolate area by a forest, he noticed a pair of children standing on the side of the road. They were staring into the darkness, seemingly waiting for someone. What caught John's attention wasn't just that they were there, it was the eyes. His headlights flickered, and as he looked closely, he realized that their eyes were completely black. At first, he thought maybe they were wearing some sort of strange costume, but something about the way they stood there, eerily still, unsettled him. Then, they made eye contact, and John swears he heard a whisper, "Please, can we come in? We're lost." He locked his doors, feeling an immediate chill run down his spine. Despite their innocent plea, there was something terrifying about them. He ignored them and sped away. But as the legend goes, John was never heard from again. Months later, rumors began circulating about the disappearance of John and others who had encountered these strange children. The one thing they all had in common was that they felt something unnatural around them, an instinctual dread that made them flee or refuse to help. But as more stories emerged from people who had encountered the black-eyed children, it became clear, this was no mere legend. The truth behind the black-eyed children, paranormal investigators weigh in. As stories of these mysterious children spread across Australia, the supernatural community began taking the claims seriously. Researchers, both amateur and professional, started investigating the phenomenon. paranormal investigators found an unsettling pattern in the encounters, which went beyond mere coincidence. In one case, a couple driving down a dark road near the Blue Mountains encountered a young girl, around 10 or 11, standing alone in the middle of the street, despite it being well past midnight. She asked for help, claiming she was lost. But her eyes, those deep, endless black eyes, told a completely different story. The investigators found records of similar incidents dating back to the early 1900s, when the black-eyed children were first reported by travelers. These reports were eerily consistent. Each encounter was described in the same way: the strange child, black eyes, a sense of unease, and a refusal to allow anyone to get too close. But the biggest breakthrough came in 2011, when a group of investigators managed to track down someone who had survived an encounter with the children. They came across a man named Michael, who had been in a car accident years earlier and had been unable to remember much of the event. Through a series of interviews, Michael recalled a strange encounter with a child whose eyes were completely black, and the feeling of being paralyzed with fear. The man spoke of how, despite his best efforts to ignore the child and continue driving, he felt as if something was actively controlling his movements, as if he was being forced to look at the child. The paranormal explanation: what are the black-eyed children? So, what's behind these ghostly, black-eyed kids? Paranormal researchers have put forward various theories to explain the mystery. Interdimensional beings. One theory is that the black-eyed children are not human at all but are rather beings from another dimension. Their black eyes are said to be a sign that they are not part of our world, but visitors from a parallel universe. They are sometimes believed to be energy siphons, drawing off human life force to sustain their presence in our dimension. Ghostly manifestations. Another theory is that these children are the spirits of the deceased, perhaps children who died tragically or violently. The black eyes could be symbolic of their lost souls, unable to find peace, forever lingering in the places where they met their end. Demonic entities. The most sinister theory is that the children are actually demons or dark spirits that take on the form of innocent children to trick people into letting them in. The overwhelming sense of dread that people feel when encountering them could be a way of influencing the mind, causing those who interact with them to act out of fear. But while these theories are plausible, no one really knows for sure. What we do know is that there's something incredibly unsettling about the black-eyed children, and the more we uncover, the less we understand. The black-eyed children and the search for answers. As time passed, the sightings of the black-eyed children became increasingly rare, but the fear they instilled didn't diminish. Some survivors have tried to return to the places where they encountered the children, but reports of these kinds of events often end in tragedy. One final theory that haunts everyone who's investigated this phenomenon is the idea that we're not meant to know the truth. That maybe these children, these ghosts, are bound by forces beyond our understanding, and the less we know about them, the better. Conclusion: the black-eyed children are real. But are we ready to know the truth? At the end of the day, the black-eyed children remain one of the most terrifying and baffling urban legends to ever come out of Australia. What started as a local story turned into a nationwide phenomenon, and today, it's more than just a tale to tell at Halloween parties. So, the next time you're out on a quiet road late at night, keep your eyes peeled. You might just encounter a child who's more than they appear to be. And if you do, don't let them in. You've heard the whispers. The terrifying stories of children with black eyes who appear out of nowhere on empty roads at night, asking for help, or worse, begging to be let into your car. For years, people thought it was just another eerie tale, until it happened to someone you might know. In this video, we dive deep into Australia's most chilling urban legend, the legend of the black-eyed children. What started as an unsettling myth has now been confirmed by eyewitnesses, paranormal investigators, and even victims of these strange, ghostly encounters. What are the black-eyed children? Where did they come from? What happens if you let them in? Is there a dark force lurking behind the eerie black eyes? We explore the true stories of those who've encountered these mysterious children, uncover what's behind their terrifying appearances, and ask the ultimate question: what happens when you cross paths with them?